Peter Obi breaks silence on Nnamdi Kanu conviction, calls it a failure of leadership. Hello and welcome back to Gist Angle, your hub for hot gist and verified news updates. After a prolonged silence from Southeast leaders following Nnamdi Kanu's conviction, Peter Obi has finally broken the silence, offering his perspective on the development and its broader implications for leadership, governance and national unity. And without wasting time, let's dive into the main report. Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate Peter Obi has described the life sentence handed to IPOB leader Mazi Nnamdi Kanu as unfortunate and a failure of leadership. Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court in Abuja sentenced Kanu to life imprisonment on Thursday, November 20, 2025. After finding him guilty on terrorism-related charges. In a statement shared on his verified X page on Saturday, Obi said the development should serve as a moment for Nigerians to reflect, especially amid worsening economic challenges, insecurity, and governance issues. According to Obi, Kanu's arrest, prolonged detention, and subsequent conviction represent a mishandling of the situation by the federal government. He emphasized that the issue could have been addressed through dialogue and constructive engagement rather than coercion. In his words, and I quote, "The news of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's conviction should compel well-meaning Nigerians to pause and reflect. This is coming at a time when our beloved nation is facing severe economic hardship, insecurity, and the consequences of poor governance. Rather than reducing tension, this unfortunate development may well only aggravate it. I have always maintained that Mazi Kanu should never have been arrested. His arrest, detention, and now conviction represent a failure of leadership and a misunderstanding of the issues at stake." Obi also emphasized the broader responsibility of the nation's leaders. In his words, "If truly we desire a new Nigeria, a united, peaceful and progressive one, our leaders must choose healing over hostility, reconciliation over retaliation, and dialogue over division. Only by addressing grievances with justice, fairness and compassion can we move towards a future where every Nigerian feels heard, valued and safe." He concluded by appealing for optimism and a focus on reconciliation, urging the presidency, the Council of State, and respected statesmen to rise to the occasion for a lasting solution to the challenges highlighted by Kanu's case. Now, my people, let's take a deeper look at Peter Obi's reaction to the conviction of Nnamdi Kanu, a reaction many Nigerians had been waiting for, especially after days of silence from prominent leaders in the Southeast. Obi's statement has now opened a new dimension in the national conversation, and it deserves a careful, balanced examination. To begin with, Obi described the conviction as unfortunate and linked it directly to what he called a failure of leadership. That is a strong position, especially coming from someone who consistently frames national issues around governance, responsibility, and empathy. His argument suggests that the entire matter, from the arrest to the detention to the final conviction, could have been prevented if handled differently. Now, whether one agrees or disagrees, the point he raises is worth examining. For years, the IPOB issues has been one of the most sensitive and polarizing matters in Nigeria. It sits at the intersection of identity, political mistrust, regional tension, and governance gaps. Obi believes that instead of escalating the matter to the level of criminal confrontation, the government should have chosen dialogue, engagement, and listening. According to him, the grievances that triggered the movement were not beyond negotiation. So the question becomes, was dialogue ever fully explored? Obi suggests it wasn't, or at least not to the extent it could have been. Next, Obi highlighted something that is very important: timing and national mood. His point is that Nigerians are already dealing with severe economic hardship, widespread insecurity, and declining public trust. In such a tense atmosphere, any development that appears punitive or divisive can easily heighten emotional reactions. He believes that instead of calming the country, the conviction may deepen feelings of alienation in certain regions. Again, this does not automatically mean that the judgment itself is wrong or illegal, but rather the context makes it even more sensitive. Let's also consider another angle. Obi emphasized that legal processes alone do not always resolve national issues. Many countries use political negotiations, especially committees and reconciliation programs, when dealing with groups or individuals who represent larger social grievances. The argument is that strict punishment does not always produce stability. Sometimes it prolongs tension. He made reference to global practices where governments seek peace through dialogue, amnesty, or negotiated settlement. Of course, this does not mean crime should be excused. Rather, Obi seems to be saying that certain situations require wisdom, not force alone. Now, another important part of Obi's message is his claim that the government misunderstood the issues at stake. What does that mean? Well, Kanu represents a movement that grew out of perceived marginalization, unemployment, and frustrations in the Southeast. Whether one supports IPOB or not, it's a fact that the movement reflects a deeper concern within a part of the population. Obi seems to be arguing that addressing those underlying concerns would have yielded better long-term stability than focusing solely on arrest and prosecution. Let's also address the part where Obi said Kanu should never have been arrested. That is a very direct statement, but if we analyze it carefully, he appears to be critiquing the initial approach, suggesting that once the government went down the path of force, the situation became harder to manage. And when a matter grows beyond its original scope, resolving it becomes even more complicated. Another key point in Obi's message is the emotional appeal for unity, peace, and healing. Rather than dwelling on blame, he encouraged Nigerians to look toward reconciliation. He urged national figures, including the presidency, the Council of State, and respected elder statesmen to step in and initiate a more holistic solution, one that brings the nation together instead of deepening division. This is consistent with Obi's general political style, promoting peace, dialogue, and calm resolution. Now, my people, let's weigh the possible implications of his statement. 1. It may encourage more leaders to finally speak up. His statement could open the door for other politicians to express their views more clearly on the matter. 2. It may influence public mood. Many Nigerians, especially those who trust his judgment, may view his call for calm and reconciliation as a stabilizing intervention. 3. It highlights the need for a new approach. Regardless of political affiliation, the message raises questions about how Nigeria deals with agitation, dissent, and national unity. 4. It puts pressure on the government to reconsider its strategy. Even though his comments were measured, they carry enough weight to push the national conversation towards solutions instead of hostility. And finally, Obi's conclusion is perhaps the most important part. He called for optimism. He believes there is still room for peace and that Nigeria can still choose a path of reconciliation. He did not encourage anger, retaliation, or division. Rather, he encouraged wisdom, caution, and national healing. In summary, his reaction has added a thoughtful, reflective voice to a very emotional national moment. Whether one agrees with every point he made or not, the issues he raised are worth reflecting on. The matter is far from over, but this kind of calm, solution-driven perspective may influence how the conversation evolves from here.
It's just angle.